one of the successes of Bolivia, of the case of Bolivia, is the organisation of social movements there, which I don't think we have here in Ireland. Movements are very highly organised. Civil society is very vibrant. It has a history of that. And many movements have a federal type structure where they'll be in, if they're a national movement, they have representatives in every department, in every municipality. So it's very well organised. So it's not easy, but it allows you to tap into that kind of national unity. And Bolivians were able to come together and say that they disagreed with water. And then later on in 2003, which was one of the major successes of the water wars and the reversal, was 2003, there was the attempt to privatise gas. And with that, people mobilised again. And they really felt, because 2000 was a success, because the reversal of that contract was a success through mobilisation, they really felt like that could happen again with the gas. And so then we have massive protests and the eventual ousting of Goni, the president, and the early call for elections, which is actually where Morales was elected.
If we look at where privatisation has come from, and where did these, we look at neoliberalism in particular, and this way of thinking that started in the 1970s with, Reagan and Thatcher trying to privatise public services, and essentially, remove things that were considered public goods like health and education, and then how that has been challenged, and the role in which social movements have played in challenging that, and in actually being successful, but also the role of left governments in bringing about that change as well. And I think what's very interesting about Latin America, and we've a lot to learn from Latin America, is the way in which this combination of social movements that are resisting on the ground in communities, and the way in which trade unions are playing an important role, community organising is playing an important role, but then that is also giving support to and being involved with the creation of governments that were the first real challenge to neoliberalism.
What we're trying to do basically is more or less get the message out to people in the country who are involved in water charges movements. We all need to work together. We need to do what Bolivia did. We need to organise a movement whereby everyone is connected. It's not a particular area. It's not Dublin 5, Dublin 12, Dublin 16. It's the whole country, up and down, from literally Donegal right down to Cork. We need everyone on the same page, and this is where basically we're trying to organise. We're trying to bring in groups from all over the country to be on the same page, to get together, to stand up like they did in Bolivia, because a single group is not going to do it. We need to get the country going, and that's what our aim is, and that's where we would hope to be.
Now, Friends of the Earth has been, I'll let me explain that a bit more. We would always have been and always will be absolutely opposed to the privatisation of water, both in Ireland and internationally. Friends of the Earth would be very strong on the commodification for profit of natural resources. And indeed, in a weird way, when this debate began in Ireland, I don't know, 5 years ago or more, kind of before the crash, but in the lead up to the crash, there was a conflation, all three things would get wrapped together: the idea of metering, the idea of pricing, and the idea of privatisation, as they still do to some degree. And we would have said, well, actually, you can at least conceptually distinguish those things. Weirdly, we're kind of getting that happening now, because we're having meters put in that aren't going to be reflected in the price we're paying. We're having a price put in that's going to be a cap, which is regressive, and I'll have a single flat rate, which is regressive, and I'll come back to that. And we have very much the risk or the threat of privatisation, and we have a water utility set up by government who, in case it isn't obvious, have made bags of this from day one and day two and every day that's passed. Absolutely, even as late as yesterday, they can't communicate their way out of it. They can't communicate, they can't organise. It's really pathetic, and worse than that for those who are being affected by it. But the risk of privatisation is real. They seem to go out of their way to set up a national utility. Now, I don't know whether they intended to privatise it, but they went out of their way to set it up to make it look like that's what they wanted to do with it. I think they'll be unlikely to privatise it now, but those three things are at least conceptually separate.